Hi everyone, this is Iggy Dash, and this is my Warrior Guides Compendium, including builds, what weapons to use, what stats to stack, how to level, all kinds of stuff. This is going to be part 1, and I'm primarily going to be talking about traits, weapons, and armor in this video. Alright, so let's get right to it. Trait-wise, this build is a somewhat tanky DPS. It's mostly DPS, and this build will push out tons and tons and tons of damage. Alright, you start off with 30 points in arms, 10 points in defense, and 30 points in discipline. I'm gonna go over each trait.
Okay.
Alright, for my Grandmaster trait, I chose Furious, which critical hits grant extra adrenaline, and I used it in sync with my 30 in Discipline, which is quick bursts. So I'm getting more adrenaline, and I'm able to use the burst quicker. And I'll explain the theory behind this a little later. Okay, Deep Strike is my number 1, which is you gain 40 precision for each unused signet you have equipped. Okay, my number 2 is Rending Strikes, which is 33% chance to cause vulnerability on critical hits, and this is a crit based burst damage build, so this is going to be very important. For defense, I have Turtle's Defense, which it's really nice to have because whenever you are crippled or chilled and things are hitting you, you get extra toughness that you need. In the Discipline trait, I already talked about quick bursts. Okay, Sweet Revenge is probably the best trait in the Discipline line, simply because it allows you to revive yourself without sitting there and healing yourself. What this means is that if you fall and you use Vengeance, which is sort of like, I fell but now I'm gonna kill you. If you kill someone in Vengeance, if you kill a mob in Vengeance, you rally, you heal yourself basically. So that's the warrior's way of having an easy way out when they're down. Okay, and my first one is Heightened Focused, which is a ton of critical hit chance. Gain 2% for one stage, 5% for 2 stages, and 9% for 3 stages. So that's an extra 9% crit if you have 3 stages of adrenaline, which you will, I'd say, around 50% of the fight, and the other 50% you're going to be building up to it. So for half of the fight you have an extra 9% crit, which is pretty significant. Alright, let's talk about weapons a little bit. I go with Axe Mace and Axe. That is the best weapons that I have found for this crit burst build. I'll talk a little bit about Greatsword, and Sword is primarily for condition damage. Let's talk about armor real quick, and then we'll go back to weapons when we talk about leveling. Armor wise, we have half Knights, half Berserkers in armor. So 3 pieces of Knight. Knight is power, precision, and toughness. And 3 pieces of Berserker, which is power, precision, and critical damage. We're stacking power, precision, and critical damage for the most part, and then toughness is just to round us out to make us a more tanky, a more stable character, especially since we're gonna go in melee range. For trinkets, including your back slot, I use all Berserker. Okay, let's talk about leveling. When I first leveled, I used primarily the greatsword, and for my secondary weapons, I had the
Now this
rifle,
is fine.
but I always had a bow nearby. Okay, the greatsword is a lot of mobility, a lot of burst damage, and really a lot of fun. So 100 blades is very important. This is what gets your damage out, and you have mobility in terms of whirlwind attack and rush. So you basically just get close to a person and start beating up on them. Okay, it was always important for me to have a rifle as my offhand and a bow in the back, simply because I like to solo a lot, and I would get in situations where the mob would be a lot tougher than I had expected. So this is where kiting comes very useful. Kiting with the rifle is the easiest thing. Basically, you go ahead and hit aim shot, and you just strafe around the target while they're crippled. Just keep hitting them. Okay? And they also have a burst and volley, so it synergizes very well with the greatsword, because you could go ahead and do the greatsword 100 blades along with the rifle's volley, and you get a lot of damage in a short period of time. So this is basically what I did for leveling and running around. In terms of skills and traits, the first 10 points you want to put in is in arms. You need to get deep strikes as fast as possible, because this will make you unstoppable. Once you get deep strikes, all the skills that you should have are signets. Alright? This is at lower levels, because when you're at low level, 40 precision is a lot, compared to at endgame when 40 precision might not be so much. At lower levels is a crazy amount. So I was running with almost 100% precision simply by using only signets, including signet of healing. That's 40 times 5, which is 200 precision at level... What level do you need to be this? Level 20, I believe. That's a ridiculous amount of precision to have, period. So that's your first real challenge, is to get there. Okay? Your next challenge is to get height and focus. That gives you a lot more precision. And when you're running a greatsword, you don't use your adrenaline strike for anything, because it's really not that great. So you just leave your adrenaline full. So you just focus on using traits that give you an advantage for stacking adrenaline. So you get height and focus right here. You get deep strikes. Okay, once you get to your second tier, in your arms trait, you want to go ahead and get forceful greatsword, which is skill X, which will give you might on critical hit with greatsword, and you're stacking crit. So this will make you stack a ton of might, and there's a different build, a might stacking build, that uses this at endgame. But for leveling, the greatsword is just awesome for that skill right there. So you have a ton of crit, and you have forceful greatsword, so you're getting a ton of might, and you have your rifle in the end. It's very important to get Sweet Revenge as fast as possible, and I went 15 points in defense just to get regeneration based on my adrenaline levels, since we're not really using our adrenaline. So once you get all that, you're pretty much rolling around killing everything very easily. After I got to my Grandmasters, this is when I switched to Axe, simply because you can start doing different stuff with it, and you can start different variations, and you can get more vulnerability, and you can start getting a ton of adrenaline, and you can get quick bursts. Okay, that's as far as leveling. You know, level with a greatsword would be a great idea. And the good thing is that if you get bored, you can simply just go ahead and get some axes and do a ton of damage with your axes, and then you can go back to greatsword when you get bored of that. Okay. That's it for the first video. Next video, I'm gonna talk about the sigils and the runes, and I'm also gonna talk a little bit about what's important about them. This is Iggy Dash. Thank you for joining me. The next video should be up pretty soon too, so keep an eye out for that.